Thank you for joining me today. Beautiful souls, awakened creators, thank you so much for being here in this very, very special live, all about parts work. And I'll get into what all of that is about. You don't need to know what it's all about. All you need to know in this moment, and I believe that if you're here watching, you do know that you would like to love yourself more completely. You would like to love all of you more. Welcome, Dream State. Welcome, Gabrielle. So, if you are seeking a greater sense of self acceptance, hi, itty bitty. You've been struggling in the past with loving parts of yourself, or feeling like, God, why can I not get beyond this thing that keeps coming up? And you feel like you keep sabotaging yourself and keep getting in your own way. This modality for healing is going to serve you so well. And so I am so grateful and thankful for you being here today and making a time for yourself today to come and have this discussion with me. So, before we begin, I want you to really think about the parts of you that you don't like very much. And you don't have to admit them to me. Hi, Karen, welcome. If you want to, cool. If you want to share them in the chat, that's awesome. Very bold of you. Already starting the process of not being afraid of your shadow, right? This is advanced shadow work, what we're discussing today. But if you want to keep it private, that's fine. But I want you to think about some parts of yourself that you don't like or that you struggle with internally. And I'll share some of mine, full transparency. Rejection. There's a part of me that really doesn't like feeling rejected. I shared them in my stories if you didn't see, but I'm going to read them. Jealousy. There's a part of me that gets jealous. Resistance to doing my work, aka being lazy sometimes, right? Maybe there's a part of you that struggles to show up for your creative projects. Anger. Anger is something that isn't talked about enough, but we're getting there. We're getting there. We're shifting the paradigm. We're not being as afraid of our shadows anymore. We are not putting spirituality up on a pedestal where we can't admit to ourselves and to others that sometimes we get angry. Really, really, really angry. So, what about that part of you? Is that the part of you that you don't want anybody to know about? You don't want anybody to share? You don't want anybody to see that you get angry, that you get jealous, that you sometimes don't want to do your creative work? So, as you think about these parts of yourself that you don't like, I want you to give it some thought how we typically dialogue about this stuff. We talk a lot about healing in terms of shedding skins. We talk about healing in terms of, I really like to get rid of or get over this part of me. Okay. And what I want to challenge you today with this discussion about parts work is that very part of you that you seek so strongly to get rid of is the exact part of you that needs the most love, that needs you to accept it, that it will never, ever, ever go away until you can bring compassionate awareness to that part of you. So it may seem really difficult to even contemplate the idea of how can I love my rage? How could I love that I like am a jealous person like that, or have a addictive personality, right? We tell ourselves all these things. How could I possibly love? If I love my laziness, won't I be encouraged to be more lazy? And herein lies the truth, is that what we're trying to do is not get rid of these parts of selves. What we're trying to do is understand them, understand their purpose, work with them, mediate this conflict within ourselves, and in doing so, we integrate that into our whole beingness. And the result of that, in my own experience, is the dissolving or repurposing of that part of self to where it's no longer destructive. But it's important that we start to consider shifting our language from ideas of getting rid of or shedding or letting go, releasing. We talk a lot about this when we talk about healing. Instead, talk about coming into wholeness, integrating, loving all of me as I am, and not allowing myself to be fragmented. And I only love these bits over here, but these ones over here I deem unacceptable and are not allowed to be loved. Um, yeah, Gabrielle says negative emotions are easier for me to express through art than in verbal words. Yeah. And I will share with you a creative way to do this work um, that I engaged in and I encourage you to do as well. So, um, a friend once told me to actually say it out loud. I am lazy and I love that. I am scary, angry, and I love that. It really starts shifting everything, even if it feels weird. Yeah, and it can feel really strange. I recently did a healing program that asked me to say, I love myself because I am these things. I love myself because I am this, to really own it, right? We say, I love myself despite the fact that I'm these things. No, I love myself because I am this. And I'm willing to look at it and I'm willing to work through it and I'm willing to shine awareness on it and I'm willing to learn to embrace it. And it's not about not changing and shifting, because what you'll see is with the magic of parts work, it does change and it does shift. And you do end up getting the result that you want, which is that lightness of being, but it doesn't come through getting rid of. Dream state says negative self-talk, procrastination, jealousy, yep, fear of abandonment, fear of failure, despite recent miracles and opportunities, right? Like, dang, how could I still be doubting? I'm literally being shown that everything's fine, and there's still a part of me that's like, don't trust it. Nope, nope, nope. It's not real. Do not invest your heart into this. You're going to be disappointed. So we want to talk to that part of ourselves so that we can come to understand it and love it. Um, Hi, Ron. I also saw someone else come in. Yes. And forgive me, I have to remember how to pronounce your username. I think that's Nicole. Yeah. Hey, Nicole. Oops. Oh my goodness. Sorry, y'all. My technology is starting to overcome me. Okay. So let's get down to work here. So hope that you have come to open yourself up to think about healing as integrative process, as a return to wholeness process, and for the time being, let go of ideas of releasing and shedding and letting go and getting rid of. Let's put that attitude on the shelf. Let's try on a new idea of coming together, acceptance, integrating. Okay. So if you've heard of parts work before, let me know. If you've never heard of it before, let me know. I discovered this modality of healing really recently, after a pretty big um, emotionally turmoil situation at the beginning of August, I was faced with the reality of these parts of myself that were destroying my relationships, and I needed to do something about it. And I've been doing all kinds of healing. You guys know that I do it all. That I share with you. I've tried it, right? I share it with you. It means I've tried it. Um, and I was encouraged by one of my partners to learn to trust myself. So, like a typical modern day human, I Google it. How do I trust myself? and I found a YouTube video by Teal Swan about trusting yourself. And in this video, I didn't actually end up finishing watching that video because in the video, she started talking about parts work as a way to learn to trust yourself because there's a part of you that doesn't, right? Okay, I could relate to that. And it sounded so intriguing. I was like, well, screw this video. I'm going to go watch this other one. So I went to watch this parts work video, um, and I was just blown away. Every cell in my body was like, you need to do this. So I began to practice it that day. And it actually, I think it was Lionsgate, the 8th of August was the first day I tried it. And, or it was the day before. And then Lionsgate was the first day where I felt like, I don't know, I became a new person. And I could not tell you the sense of relief I got after just an hour of doing this work with myself in private in my bedroom, literally just like coaching myself through this process. And it has done more for me than any like other modality that I could possibly think of. I felt completely transformed and in a solid way. You know, sometimes you can try out a healing modality and it feels good, but it still feels kind of surface level. Like maybe it didn't quite go down into the depths and scrub that bottom part. Um, and there's a sense of that you kind of worry that part might come back. This was the first time I felt like, no, it's gone. It's gone. And it's not gone as in I've gotten rid of it. It's be- become part of me. Like I felt whole. I felt whole. So I really want to teach you how to do this and what it looked like for me. It doesn't necessarily have to look like that for you, but I want to share what it looked like for me and how I used it. So the parts of self that I described that I've struggled with, uh, rejection. There's a part of me that was the first one I started with. The part of me that when I feel rejected, I get really mean. And I had already communed with this part of self and lovingly called her Becky, named her after that faceless girl that they talk about in that Big Butt song. Like, oh my God, Becky, look at her butt. So Becky is the like unnamed wholeness and completeness with this. So I also used it to heal um, part of me that's constantly insecure, looking for reasons why I'm not lovable, my resistance to showing up and doing my work, aka the lazy part of me, um, which, by the way, I discovered is trying to protect me from burnout. Um, and that's the thing that you will come to know and understand is that all the parts of you, whether you want to judge them as good, bad, or indifferent, all of them have one sole purpose, and that is to help you. Okay? They want to help you. They just might be going about it in a way that doesn't really help you anymore. But I guarantee you, when this part of self fragmented, it was serving a great purpose. And unfortunately, as we grow and we evolve and we expand, we never really think to go back and reintegrate that part of us that fractured off. Maybe it was a part that fractured off when we were being abused as a child. Maybe it's a part that fractured off after we our first breakup. Maybe it's a part of us that fractured off after we burnt out at a job and we were like, I'm never going to do that again. Um, but then we continue to grow and spiritually evolve, and we're becoming this new person, but we don't go back and reintegrate that part of self. So it stays there and it kind of wreaks havoc because it still thinks it's operating in the old world, in that old version of you. Um, so the point is to remember that all of your parts serve a purpose and all of them are trying to help you. They just might be going about it in a way that no longer serves because you are not that hurt little child anymore. You are not that, uh, you know, person who lets themselves get taken advantage of at their job anymore. So, the other thing that I want you to think about and how it was explained to me by Teal and what I found to be most effective is that you're never just talking to just one part. There's always a part of you that's in opposition with that part. And the point is to try to mediate the conflict that's inside yourself, because this is what's happening, right? Yeah, there is a part of you that is uh, resistant to doing the work, but there's another part of you that wants to do it and wants to put in the effort and believes this is your passion. I want to do it. And they're fighting with each other inside. And in my experience, I did not always know or have a clear idea of what the oppositional part was. And I want to recommend that you give yourself permission to not know, to discover. Let this be a process of inner discovery. And just start with the part that you do know, right? It's probably the one that you don't like the most, the more dominant one, because that's the one that's showing up all the time. And this will make more sense when I tell you how to actually do this. Um, so let me go ahead and drink some tea and I will get right into it. But I've got some folks sharing their parts. Gabrielle's got some pride, ego, some insecurity. Yep. Anybody else want to share? Reactivity. Yep. Okay. Yeah, great sharing all. All right. So here's how this process looked like for me. The first thing I did is I found a piece of paper. I literally grabbed a little scrap paper from my son's bedroom creation box and I wrote down the part of me that I wanted to get in touch with. And the interesting thing I learned about this is that it kind of is like channeling yourself. So I started with jealous, hurt Amanda. And I quite literally wrote down on this piece of paper that, and then I set it down on a place to sit. Okay. And I centered myself and I made it clear my intention is to commune with this part of self that feels jealous and hurt and allow whatever to come through so that I may integrate and resolve this conflict within me. And then I sat on the piece of paper, like the paper on my seat, and I sat on it as a way to just ritualistically tell my mind I'm going into this part. I am no longer Amanda as I know her. I am becoming this part, and I'm going to listen and allow whatever truth wants to come through from this part. And as I breathe and just relax my mind, it's so interesting how different each one was. I start to feel in my body, experience, and I just allow this part to speak without any judgment from self. Just allow it to speak. And you may, at this first stage, just get what you already know, that this part of you is angry or lazy or sad or something, and you'll just feel the feelings of that part. Okay. This is also just by practicing this really good practice of observing your physical responses to triggers without reacting to them. Because you're literally triggering yourself. You're not allowing someone else to do it for you. You are like, I want to feel this and I'm going to feel it and then I'm going to disconnect from it. So that's the next step. After you've done that, um, after you have, sorry, got my other notes. After you have done that, I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. You want to go back to center. Okay. It's really important that you always return to neutrality, that you don't jump from one part to another. Okay. Ooh, Gabrielle just brought up something beautiful. And yes, I experienced this too. Some of these parts you may recognize are not yours. They don't even belong to you. They're an embodiment of a parent or a figure in your life, right? That you, however you were treated by them, you like sucked into your being, and now you treat yourself that same way because you don't know any better yet, or that part of you doesn't. Okay. And that's definitely one of the parts that I communed with. I realized it was my dad's energy. It had nothing to do with me. Um, it was his anger and his rage. It was not mine. I simply embodied it because of the trauma of being yelled at and screamed at as a child. So, um, so consider that as well. So you're going to initiate that conscious connection with the part of yourself that you want to understand more. You're going to ask yourself, what does it feel like? What are you noticing about its appearance? And the last thing, before you go back to center, you want to ask, does this part have an awareness of you, or is it operating independently? Because if you, as neutral self, say like, are you aware of Amanda? Are you aware of your name? You may find that you feel the answer is no, that that's part of you is operating completely independent and has no idea that it is wreaking havoc on this being, you, on your life. Or it may be very aware of you, like my Becky was, of like, yeah, and I'm here to protect her, and this is what I do. And when people threaten her, I bite back, right? That's my job. Because when that a-hole broke up with her, she was so hurt, and I made sure that I would defend her from that day forward. So you can come to understand how this part served you when it showed up first. Um, what is it afraid of will happen if it doesn't do its job? Okay. Then center yourself. Literally stand up from your piece of paper and go to a neutral spot. Okay. And center yourself and look at where you were sitting, because I found this as well, that when I looked at where I was sitting, I got new information about what this part looks like, its energy signature. It was really just mind-blowing how much information I intuitively felt. And I know all of you awakened creators are so attuned. You can do this. Like, I know I come on camera and I channel and all of that, but you all have the same intuitive gift within you. And it's even easier to tune into yourself than another person. So this will also help you develop and strengthen your own intuitive gifts. Um, so gaze at where you were sitting and see if you can gather any additional information from this part. What do you notice? Has its appearance changed and shifted at all since you sat there? I experienced that as well. Um, do you recognize where this part might have come into your life? Okay. And can you start to understand yet what it's trying to do for you? And don't worry if you can't. It's just your first sitting with it. You're going to keep doing this until you fully understand. That is where the integration magic happens. So observe neutrally. Now, what you want to do is connect to the oppositional part. And again, you might not know what this opposition part is. I didn't. For any of the parts work I did, I had no clue who was sitting in opposition to this part. So what I did on my sheet of paper is I wrote a question mark to start with, question mark, and I sat on the question mark. Okay? Not in the same spot, in a different spot. Okay? Sit on your question mark. And same process though. Open yourself up to receive the truth of this part that's in opposition to the other part. What is this part? How does it feel? What does it look like? What is its purpose? What is it trying to do for you? You may find, as I did, and what my jealousy and hurt ended up actually being insecurity. So your original description may not accurately describe the part of self, but that's okay. This is a discovery process. So start with your biggest hunch and allow it to evolve. Um, the part that was in opposition to the jealous and hurt version of me, um, or my insecurity, was acceptance. And I tell you, when I sat at acceptance, I didn't know it was acceptance. It was a question mark. I felt such stillness, almost to the point where I was like, "Am I doing this wrong?" And then I realized, "Oh no, yes, this is peace. This is acceptance. This is what it feels like to actually accept myself, to have gone from the itchy insecurity within me of like discomfort in my own skin to the stillness and peace of acceptance. And from this oppositional part, you're going to ask yourself some similar questions, but you're also going to ask, does this part have an awareness of the other part? It may not. Okay. Does this part have an awareness of you? It may not. How is this part serving? What is this part's job, role, purpose? And again, you're just allowing yourself to receive the truth of this part, feeling it fully in your body, okay? And observing what message it has for you, what truth that it would like to express to you, and letting all things be accepted, okay? And then again, you're going to return to center and reflect. So, returning to center, right? Getting off of your part. And now you should be looking at two parts of self, right? The original one you started with and the one in opposition to it. And from this neutral standpoint, you may start to get a sense of the conflict between the two. Well, if I'm dealing with insecurity over here, and here's full on acceptance beyond even my human understanding, how can I possibly, like, they seem so opposed to each other, right? This is good. This is the information. This is how you're identifying. Yes, this is where that inner conflict is coming from. Now go back and sit with that first part, okay? And gather more information, because as you, the neutral observer, observe each part, you are forcing awareness of the parts of each other, because you're that constant observation. You are casting the light of awareness on all your parts here, okay? So if they weren't aware of each other before, they sure as heck are going to be now, okay? And as you go back to sit with that first part, you're going to get new information. If it wasn't, like I said, if it wasn't aware before, it is now, and you may find that now there's some conflict where it's like, oh yeah, I know about that jerk over there, acceptance, but that's complete BS, because ever since we were 8 years old, we've watched everybody else get all the attention and affection, which means you can't possibly be lovable, right? And acceptance, head in the clouds, no way, can't believe it, can't do it. And then again, you might get more information. You can keep asking the questions. What is your purpose then? Why are you here? What is it that you're trying to protect me from? Well, I'm trying to figure out why you're not lovable so you can fix it. Okay, that's what I discovered with my insecurity. It's over there taking notes of every single interaction I've ever had with anybody since I was 8 years old, trying to figure out why I'm not lovable. Okay. And over here, in opposition to it, is this Buddha like acceptance of like, man, she's been lovable since the beginning. Like, there is no such thing, because you are love. And so, as you keep going back and forth, always returning to center between parts, you are going to get so much awareness, and you're going to start mediating this process, because you are that powerful and you are amazing. Okay. Continuing asking yourself, how could these parts work together? Is that even possible? It may not be possible. Okay. One of them may start dissolving. And as you shine light and awareness, like my anger did, because when I realized, hey, this isn't even mine, this is my dad. Um, I was willing then to like, oh, to soften, okay? And instead of trying to fight against this part of me, I was just like, oh, it was like a light bulb moment. And in that light bulb moment, I began to see this anger transform. And as you go back and forth to center, you will notice visually, your energetic vision of these parts may start to shift, especially the part that you are most trying to integrate. Okay. Um, and that's what happened to me. And again, um, you're mediating. So if the parts can't work together, just keep mediating, keep going back to center, sit in that part, center, sit in that part until one part seems to decide to leave. Because again, its purpose is to exist to help you. And if your level of awareness has dissolved the need for its help, and you're making it aware that you're aware that you don't need its help anymore, that it's served its purpose. Thank you, right? When you can get to that, thank you for protecting me, thank you for trying to stand up for me against the bullies, thank you for trying to keep me safe, thank you for trying to help me not burn out anymore, thank you, thank you, but I'm good now, I'm good now. I'm good now. Another thing you might experience, like I did, is that that part that you were originally like, "I really don't like that part of me." You may wanna reassign it to a new task, and this happened with my Becky. My Becky showed up for me after a really bad breakup to help me not blame myself for this person leaving me. She pointed outward and blamed everyone else. Every other woman that I saw was the problem. But she did it out of love. Do you see that? How she's doing it because she wants to keep me from blaming myself because she knows if I blame myself, I might hurt myself. So her job was to blame. And as I began this dialogue with her and with the opposing part, which I lovingly call Bubbles, which is my hopeless romantic bubble of love within me that just thinks everything is beautiful and wonderful. And maybe she's a little naive. Um, but as I dialogued and softened towards Becky, I realized I don't want to let her go. She's been a fierce protector of me all these years, but I want to give her a new job because I don't want to attack anybody else. And I don't want to attack myself. So I thought to myself, what could I have Becky do now? Aha, light bulb moment. Anytime I start comparing myself to other people in my head, talking down to myself, thinking demeaning thoughts, Becky's on it. That's her new job. She is going to, no, 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 no. And if she needs somebody to blame, I said she can blame the devil. Say, like, not today, Satan. You're not getting in her head today. And you know what? I kid you not. She has been on the job since that day. And I have never been so kind to myself in my brain since reassigning Becky. She is on it. As soon as I start thinking something negative about myself, she nips it in the bud. So there may be a part of you that you actually want to reassign to a different task within yourself. Okay. Um, now, um, okay. A couple of notes. I mentioned that is normal for a part as you're integrating to start to feel flat when you sit on the card. And that's kind of how you know it's starting to integrate. If you go back to it and it just feels like it's gone, that happened with my insecurity part. There was a point in the process after sitting with insecurity and acceptance over and over and over again that I went back to insecurity and it felt like an empty room. That was the energetic awareness, was it as an empty room. And I'm like, I think she went to go do something else. Okay. That works for me because I'd rather be, hanging with acceptance most of the time anyways. So, it is also normal for a part of you to argue for its relevance, okay? Just trust the process. Keep going back to neutral and sitting with the other part as many times as you need to until you can come to an understanding, okay? Um, yeah. So now I want to share. And I love how excited you guys are to try this or are like trying to try it now. That's great. I want to share how you can get creative with this because I didn't just stop at this process. I fell so in love with the visuals that I was getting, this intuitive visuals of these parts of self that I'm like, I'm going to draw these parts. I'm going to draw them. And if maybe you're not into drawing, maybe you write a song about them. Or maybe you dance their energy, right? So there's ways you can get creative. Maybe you make a video describing this conflict, right? That would be a great way for you to really fully like get some closure on this, that you are so aware of these parts of self and you have brought so much compassionate knowing and loving to them that you can share them openly and artistically without feeling any sort of way, like feeling neutral. So I hope you can see. I'm going to share my tablet with you because I did some digital art. This is Becky and Bubbles. Let me turn off my ring light. I think that might make it easier to see. I'm trying to show YouTube. There we go. That's the direction. Okay, there's Becky. She was like super skinny because she doesn't feed herself with love. She starves herself of love. And there's Bubbles. Show Instagram. There's my Becky and Bubbles. Okay, so you can have fun with it. And I think that too will help you kind of bring down the volume on this whole conflict because again, once you're able to really capture it creatively, it's like neutral to you. So that's that transmutation power of art in whatever expression. Again, you could write poems, you could write a story about the experience and dialogue the character, right? So you can get creative with it. So I'm curious, and I think I already know the answer because, like I said, some of you are already seeming to be trying it, but I hope that you do you want to try parts work? Do you want to try parts work? Again, I feel like this has been one of the most powerful modalities for healing that I've stumbled upon yet. And such an active way to bring wholeness to self and love all parts of self. I posted in stories on Facebook, I think the other day. It was this heart and it was segmented, right? But it was talking about this work. It was talking about, I love this part and this part and this part and this part and this part. And all the parts that society tells me not to love, that I myself have struggled to love. I love all of it. I love all of me. And you know what happens when you start to really get to know to love yourself? Your art is going to become so much more authentic, so much more clear because you're no longer fighting with yourself. So, there are some parts of self that I want to encourage you to consider. Some of you have already mentioned them, but think about which ones get most in the way of your creativity, your creative journey. Maybe there's a part of you that's afraid to show up and share your work. You could start with that part. Maybe there's a part of you that's constantly criticizing your work. You could start there. A part of you that's afraid to spend money investing in your creativity. Talk to that part. A part of you that's constantly comparing yourself to others. So consider the parts that are most relevant to your creative journey right now and or whatever you have going on in your personal life that is taking energy away from your creative projects, right? So however you want to look at it. And if you want help, if you want guidance, if you want all of this video condensed into 2 pieces of paper so that you can refer to it, print it out, lock your door like I did, go through the process with a guide. I made a little worksheet for you all, and you can get to it in the link in my bio on Instagram, or it's in the show notes on YouTube. So if you would like a little worksheet to help you work through this process, I made one for you all that will take you through the steps. There's 7 steps, and then a little bit of guidance and advice. So check that out. And let me know what results. Let me know what parts work does for you. If you put in the intention and the effort, I can't see how you could not come away from this experience transformed. I just can't see. Um, I would love to hear about it. I would love you to send me a message on Instagram. Tell me how it's going for you. Again, if you want that worksheet to help you, you can get to the link on my bio. And then, yeah, any questions or anything y'all can ask before we wrap it up. We've got about 10 minutes. Thank you for the worksheet. Dream State says, you're very welcome. Thank you for being here. Anything we can offer each other and you. Gabrielle, just support and continued love for all parts of self. I think just doing the work yourself and sharing the results is enough to get people interested and working on it. So I am going to continue. I've already worked with, I think, about 7 parts at this point, which if you think about it is really 14 because each time you're doing it, you're working with 2 parts of self. But I will be visiting with my father next month, and I suspect that some parts will show up that aren't active right now because he's not around me. So I am expecting that I will do some more parts work next month to help me resolve whatever my residual stuff might be there between me and my dad, because I want to heal that relationship. So again, you can use this in whatever way to heal relationships with people, relationships with substances, food, relationships to concepts, energy levels, body, whatever that you have. So, all right. The last thing I want to mention next week is a full moon, our second full moon of the month. That makes it a blue moon. How exciting. And it's in Pisces. Woo! So, talk about turning up the spiritual volume. We are got a full moon in Pisces. And the other amazing quality of the vibration of Pisces is forgiveness and grace and compassion, all of the things we've been talking about that you need to bring to these parts of self. So I couldn't think of a more perfect full moon to follow this parts work journey that you're about to go on than this soothing Pisces full moon next week. So next Wednesday, join me live. We'll sit with the energies of the Pisces full moon, blue moon, and really just lay a lot of love, compassion, forgiveness, and acceptance onto ourselves. And I would love to see you there. And if you enjoyed this video, obviously give it a little heart, share it in your stories. You all have been so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing Awakened Creators with others. That's how we grow this community. I'm so very grateful and thankful to you for spreading the love and getting the word out there about this loving community. So, oh, we got one last little quote here. I love you too, Dream State. Wings of Jewels says, your story may not have been a happy beginning, but that doesn't make you who you are. Wisdom from the movie Kung Fu Panda 2. Aw, yes. Your story may not have a happy beginning, but that doesn't make you who you are, right? We get to choose to love those parts of self, integrate, and move on. Share this video with those you think might benefit from it. I love you. Bye for now, everybody.